Thank you, Melinda. It's great to be here. Great to see everyone, and congratulations, Gregory, on the slam. I'm really excited to be here today from California and to share with you our work at Emotive around brain-augmented technology. So human augmentation has been going on for thousands, if not millions, of years. We started out with physical augmentation and tools that allowed us to manipulate the world around us in ways beyond our natural capabilities. Over the last century, we've seen a rise in cognitive augmentation, from pharmacology and education systems to the invention of machines that have greatly improved our ability to solve problems, expanded our access to information, and even helped us connect with one another. And these machines have become more and more a part of our daily lives. Personal computers brought computing devices into our homes, and now almost half the global population has a smartphone in their pocket. So what is the next stage in this personalization of computing and our own digital augmentation? So as we've started to discuss a little bit already today, for the most part right now, we provide human input into machines in very discrete moments, where we type or click or swipe or speak. But imagine what's possible if the digital technology around us were connected to our biology and could respond to and learn from our constantly changing physical, emotional, and mental states. Humanistic intelligence is a term that was coined by Ray Kurzweil, Marvin Minsky, and Steve Mann. And it describes intelligence that arises when the feedback loop between the human and the machine is so seamless and direct that they can learn and adapt as a single unit and create something that goes well beyond what each could do on its own. So having a device that doesn't just sit in your pocket, but that's actually connected to your biological self would be truly a personal computer. Now, the part of our biology that we would most associate with ourselves as individuals is our brain. Right? It's the seat of our intelligence, the source of our experiences, and the driver of our actions. It's also extremely adaptable and a rich source of information. So there's no doubt a huge opportunity in connecting our minds to the digital world around us. But getting a real-time feed of what's going on inside anyone's mind is a big challenge. Our brain, thankfully, is protected in layers of fluid, membrane, bone, fat, and skin, which makes it hard to see and measure what's going on inside. Over the last century, though, we've seen the invention of instruments that have allowed us to non-invasively measure human brain activity. The most cost-effective of these is EEG. EEG, or electroencephalography, measures voltage fluctuations from the brain using sensors on the scalp. And devices like the one I'm showing you here have been historically used in the context of medicine and research. And they get really great signals from a lot of channels across the head, but they can cost tens of thousands of dollars. They can take around an hour to set up. They're very uncomfortable, not very stylish, and the person wearing them is wired to a computer. So really not a great solution to power this next stage of personal computing, especially at scale. What we need for this are devices that are affordable, wireless, and easy to use in everyday scenarios, but that also output really high-quality data. So Emotive has been the pioneer in developing wearable brain sensing devices that are simultaneously accurate and accessible. So here I'm showing you our latest device, the Emotive Insight. It costs 2 orders of magnitude less than medical-grade devices. It's wireless, using Bluetooth to communicate with mobile and PC computers. And it takes 1 to 2 minutes to set up. Importantly, the data is also professional grade. So sensor by sensor, the signals that we get from our headsets are comparable to medical-grade devices. And though this device, our 5-channel device, and our 14-channel epoch device have many fewer sensors than the headset I showed you previously, we're still covering the major cortical lobes of the brain, which is important since different parts of the brain do different things. So we're still able to get a good idea of what's going on in these different functional areas. So devices like this are really democratizing the ability to measure human brain activity. But if I were to show most people here the raw data that you would get out of these headsets, you would probably have little idea how to interpret it. So along with developing hardware, we've worked really hard to develop machine learning algorithms that can pull out meaningful information from the raw data. And we think that this is a critical part of the technology development. So we focused on two main areas. First, we've developed a suite of detections for cognitive and emotional states, like focus, excitement, interest, engagement, and stress. And these mental states play a very critical role in our decision-making, our performance, and our health. Lucky for us, they're relatively easy to detect compared to other brain processes, because they cause really global, widespread changes in the pattern of brain activity that we can detect using EEG. And these changes are very similar across people. So my excited brain is very similar to your excited brain. This means that we've been able to develop algorithms using groups of test subjects, which can then generalize to the broader population without the need for training and customization. So you can put a headset on and see how focused, how stressed, how excited you are. Next, we've also developed a system for training personalized mental commands that can be used to control machines just with your thoughts. So to give you a taste of how this works, I've actually asked a volunteer to come help me out. So Arvid, can you come on up? Everyone give him a round of applause, please. OK, have you ever controlled a computer with your mind before? Exciting day. OK, so I'm first going to fit you with our 14-channel Epoch Plus headset. So let me connect it first. There we go. OK, I'm just going to put this on your head. And then I'm going to position the sensors just to make sure that we've got good contact with your scalp. How does it feel? A little cold? That's the saline a little bit. So yeah, a lot of EEG devices use gel, which you have to wash out of your hair afterwards. It's kind of messy and annoying. This device uses saline, and our Insight device is actually a dry sensor system. OK, so next we're going to start the training process. OK, so to start this, we're first going to capture your brain activity for 8 seconds while you're in a neutral state. So you're just going to hang out and relax and try not to think of everyone staring at you. Yeah? OK, are you ready? Yeah. OK. So the system is going to use this neutral data as a reference point later on. OK. OK, so next we're going to capture your brain activity again, and for 8 seconds again, but this time while you're holding a thought in your mind that you're later going to use to control this virtual cube. And this can be any thought. It can be visual imagery, motor imagery, a sound, whatever you want, as long as you think you can accurately recreate that again when you want to move the cube. And then after the training, the system is going to do pattern recognition. And when it recognizes a similar pattern of brain activity that Arvid did during the training, it's going to trigger that push command. So do you know what thought you want to use? You got it in your head? OK. So to just give you a bit of positive feedback during the training, the cube is going to move during that time. OK? So you ready? If you just stand a little closer so we make sure we keep that connection. OK, you ready? And go. OK, feel all right? He's like, I don't know. Yeah. OK, so now you are live, and the cube is responding to your brain activity in real time. So see if you can think that thought and move the cube. Well, you just did it. Can you do it again? Nice. Hey, everyone give him a round of applause. Awesome. You got that pretty fast, actually. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Everyone give him one last round of applause. Thank you. So if Arvid wanted to improve his accuracy and control even more, he would train multiple sessions, right? And this would allow the algorithm to better detect that common thought or thread that runs between the training sessions, because there's always other stuff going on in our brains, right? And it would also give him more practice at trying to recreate thoughts, which is a skill that most of us don't have, right? So most people with training can get 4 discrete commands with good accuracy. And we actually recently learned of this gentleman here who's paralyzed from the neck down, who drove a Formula 1 race car just using these mental commands and his mind. He had a command for accelerate, brake, left, and right. And he drove the car around the track, which is pretty amazing. So these mental commands plus detections for emotions and easy-to-use hardware means that you don't have to be a neuroscientist to access brain data and make use of it. So to give you a bit of a taste of the kind of applications that this opens up, I wanted to share a video of one of my favorite projects using Emotive.
Since I was a little kid, I always thought it would be amazing if you could make music with your mind. People that don't have the ability to even move their hands or even move, that they can basically use this technology to make music.
I'm afraid I can't clear my brain, that's what I'm more afraid of. Open? Wow.
For Andy, it was so amazing because he just put the headset on his head and it works.
It is phenomenal that you can control something just using the power of your thoughts.
So in that example, 3 gentlemen who were previously musicians and DJs, but who'd lost the physical ability to create music due to accident or disease, were able to create again using a combination of their emotions, their facial expressions, and their thoughts. So you may, from this example, begin to think of these devices as neural prosthetics, which are devices that serve to replace lost function. But they go well beyond that. Because by connecting our brains to machines that can do things that we just can't, we can acquire capabilities that none of us have had before. We can augment our intelligence, our memory, our ability to communicate with one another, or in this example, our ability to create art. So over the next decade, we're going to see human brain data integrated into more and more of the digital world around us. The last couple years has been particularly exciting for the space of brain-augmented technology. You may have heard, for example, that Facebook is working on brain-mediated telepathy, and Brian Johnson of Braintree and Elon Musk are both working on neural implantable devices. But it's going to be many years before we see the fruits of these projects. So building upon advances in consumer electronics and machine learning, Emotive technology is able to offer significant capabilities in brain augmentation now. So I'm really excited to share some of the applications that are possible today and that are also on the very near horizon. So first, as Arvid helped us to demonstrate, this technology makes it possible to control machines using just your thoughts. And this creates a new user interface and way of interacting with machines. And we've been evolving how we do this for decades, right? So the 80s and 90s saw the rise of the graphical user interface and mouse. And more recently, touchscreen UI changed things again. So brain-computer interface, or BCI, gets rid of these intermediates and goes straight to the source of our intentions and actions, which of course is our brain. So it's like using the Force to talk to your computer, or like in those sci-fi movies that Melinda was talking about. So active brain control like this opens up new ways of interacting in gaming, for example. You could throw a fireball with your mind. Or in environments like the military, where hands-free control may be really important. And also in virtual reality and augmented reality, where the touchscreen, the keyboard, and the mouse just don't make sense. So with this technology, we can also create experiences that respond to our emotions in real time. So this video is showing a virtual driving experience that was created by Acura. And in this experience, the environment evolved visually based on someone's current emotional state. And this created a unique experience for each person that tried it out. So brain-mediated experiences like this one can also be optimized in real time to maximize certain emotions, like engagement or relaxation, using real-time feedback and the kind of predictive analytics that we were just discussing. And this takes personalization to a whole new level. Imagine, for example, that your music playlist could automatically evolve over time to become more and more what you liked just by listening to your brain activity, so not requiring any input about what songs you liked or did not like. This more passive brain control also has applications in gaming and other forms of entertainment, and huge potential when connected with immersive experiences like VR, AR, and MR. But brain control is not just confined to our virtual world. It also extends into the physical space, thanks in large part to the Internet of Things. We know from other conversations so far today that there's, the number of connected devices is near the number of people on this Earth, right? So, and it's just growing. And any device that's connected to the cloud can also be controlled by the brain, because we can easily send brain data to the cloud using Bluetooth, mobile devices or computers, and the internet. So in a smart home, this means that your lights, your music, your digital art could change to reflect your current mood, or maybe even be used to change your mood and help you become more relaxed. Vehicles and industrial equipment could require adequate levels of focus and alertness to operate, improving safety in those environments. And disabled individuals can have more control of their physical surroundings. So brain-augmented technology is really changing how we experience and interact with the world. It's also changing our internal world and our ability to grow and strengthen our own brains. So lifelong learning is becoming more and more critical as the pace of change quickens. And having access to real-time information of our current mental states opens up new opportunities to tune our environments to improve learning and performance. So to give you an example, as many of you know from experience, when you're learning something new or performing a difficult task, you need some level of stress and mental arousal in order to stay motivated and focused, right? But too much can impair your decision-making and your memory. So using real-time information of someone's stress and cognitive load, we can tune the difficulty level of an education program, for example. Or use music to help someone relax or get pumped up and keep their brain in that sweet spot. We can use brain wearables to help people reach their peak performance. We can also use brain data to help us self-regulate our own minds. Neurofeedback is an EEG-based technique that's been used for decades to treat disorders like ADHD, depression, and anxiety. And it uses real-time representations of someone's mental state to help them learn how to become more focused or have more emotional control. Though we live in our brains, it's really hard to know actually what's going on inside of them. So this tries to give that perspective to the person. So easy to use and affordable EEG means that this technique can be taken outside of this medical context and be applied for anyone to use to learn more about their brains and tune their minds. This is a picture here of National Geographic explorer Dan Raven Ellison, who is using a motive to discover how different environments affect his brain. And tracking your brain like you would track your steps, you can learn what time of day you're the most focused, or what activities make you the most stressed, or use real-time neurofeedback to deepen a meditation practice, for example. We're particularly encouraged by how our technology can be used to reduce psychological stress using neurofeedback. The World Health Organization has named stress as the health epidemic of the 21st century, which probably doesn't come as a surprise to many people here. It's estimated that 75 to 90% of doctors' visits are stress-related. And stress contributes to serious physical ailments like asthma, diabetes, and heart disease. So using brain wearables and neurofeedback gives individuals the opportunity to track their stress levels over time. And also to improve effective relaxation practices like meditation. And put into practice in communities, especially like the workplace, there's a huge potential for neurofeedback to reduce stress and improve our overall health and productivity. And with these brain wearable tools, this is possible today. But we all know that stress is not the only brain-related health challenge that we face as a society. Diseases and disorders of the nervous system, like epilepsy, Parkinson's, anxiety disorder, and drug addiction, are a massive source of personal and economic burden. Depression is the #1 cause of disability worldwide. And dementia recently surpassed heart disease as the #1 killer in England and Wales. And this prevalence is only going to continue to rise globally as we all live longer. And it's very likely that everyone in this room actually knows someone who has faced a serious neural impairment, because 1 out of 3 people will face one in their lifetime. Like my aunt, who lost 30 years of her life to depression, and my grandma, who passed away before her time from Alzheimer's. Wearable brain sensing devices that can be worn every day offer a remarkable opportunity to develop biomarkers for diseases and disorders of the nervous system. Being able to identify the onset of dementia or depression, for example, would mean that intervention and treatment could happen at earlier stages, which would significantly improve outcomes. Indeed, our research and development at Emotive has largely been driven by our desire to better understand and prevent what can go wrong with the brain. But to find these markers, we need a lot of data. We, of course, need to understand the changes in the patterns of brain activity that are characteristic of certain disorders and diseases. But importantly, we need to put these changes in the context of individual differences and also how brains usually change throughout a lifetime. We need to really understand normal human brains. To do this, we're amassing the largest bank of human brain data, as far as we're aware, and that's largely taken from healthy individuals doing everyday activities, like browsing the internet, driving in their car, listening to music. And this data is very different from a lot of the human brain data that's collected so far. In medicine, brains are usually scanned when something is already clearly wrong. And in research experiments, people are usually experiencing or doing things very different from what they would day to day. We've already collected data from tens of thousands of individuals spanning over 120 different countries. And in many cases, this data is longitudinal, where individuals have been recorded across weeks, months, and even years. So we're learning a lot more about the human brain. And this opportunity is only going to get greater. As hardware and software advance, the devices that we can create are going to become more and more discrete, which means that they'll be moving from the prosumer into the consumer space, simultaneously spurred along by the VR and AR industries, as well as the Internet of Things industries. And as the number of devices and the variety of applications in the ecosystem grows, we're going to see an exponential growth in the amount of data that we can collect. We're also continuing to see growth of the use of wireless EEG in the research setting. And this includes basic brain research, like neuroscience and psychology, as well as business applications like neuromarketing and user testing. And these applications as well are bringing in even more data. Machine intelligence learns from information, just like we learn from our experiences. So and this is actually one of the reasons that we've seen a recent explosion in machine learning applications, is that there's just so much more data for algorithms to learn from. And so as we're able to collect more data at Emotive, we'll be able to improve our detections and add more value to our users, which will increase our user base and our ability to collect data, and the cycle continues. So we're really on the brink of seeing this positive feedback loop pick up some significant speed. We, of course, need to be very mindful around privacy and data protection, especially because brain data is so personal, as I've been saying from the start. But there's a lot of information and a lot of value that we can derive from the data while still protecting individuals and anonymizing them in that way. So it's really an exciting time to be part of the space. So I hope by now you have a fuller view of how brain-augmented technology is changing how we experience and interact with the world around us, and how it's also opening up new opportunities for us to improve how we grow and protect our own minds. It's also clear that this technology, along with other biosensors and wearables, is fundamentally changing our relationship with machines. Most of us still think of machines and humans as very separate entities, right? But connecting digital technology to our brains and the seat of our intelligence, our motivations, our emotions, really starts to further break down this dichotomy. With wearable devices, wearable brain sensing devices in particular, we can create more symbiotic systems between the biological and the digital. And these systems can benefit from the power and capacity of technologies like artificial sensors, the internet and cloud, machine intelligence, and robotics, but still keep the human and our human values at the center. It's also clear that this technology is going to change our relationships with each other. Devices that can measure our emotions and transmit digital versions of these in real time to any connected device, potentially, will no doubt change how we express ourselves and communicate and define our social communities. In fact, I would go so far as to bet that just like social applications like Facebook really spurred along the broad adoption of smartphones, that social applications for brain wearables is likely to be what motivates their broad use as well. And I don't think it's going to be very long before we all find out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that fascinating talk.